to PhD with Woman on It, Hack the Future. My name is Beata Young, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Cindy Gallop. Topic: Hacking the Future with SexTech legend Cindy Gallop. Episode 81 starts here. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my mojo. And empathy is critical when you are hacking the future with SexTech legend Cindy Gallop. In today's episode, we are going to learn from Cindy, who is a legend. And I'm not going to introduce her because you should know her. And actually, she said she doesn't care what you say about her because she's going to prove her point tonight. So let's start. Cindy, where in the world are you today?
Sure. So I'm where I live and work. I'm in New York, and I'm in my apartment in Midtown Manhattan.
Thank you very much. I'm joining from beautiful Valletta. It's very dark here in Malta, but we've got 1 hour to cover the topic. I hear a lot, I don't want to be hired just because I'm a woman, says Cindy. Why is that, and why you believe it should be challenged?
So, I've been championing gender equality, diversity, and inclusion for many years. And, I talk about the fact that, I regularly hear from women, oh, but Cindy, I don't want to get hired just because I'm a woman. And my response is always, get over that and look around you at all the mediocre men who got hired just because they were men. Affirmative action has been operating in the wrong direction for many years. And so my response is absolutely totally take the job that's being offered to you to demonstrate gender equality and diversity, and then do the bloody brilliant job in that role that will demonstrate to people clearly why they were so right to hire you in the first place.
And you're all about positivity. Today's PhD Positivity Hacks Delivered is focused on positivity, but quite often you have to stir a little bit this concept of white guys talking to white guys about other white guys. How to disrupt and not upset them?
I don't give a shit about upsetting white guys. And I highly recommend to every woman listening to this that you don't give a shit about upsetting white guys either. I'm not remotely interested in doing anything that is about mollifying or not upsetting. Don't give a damn what anybody else thinks. Do what's right for you. Do what's right for the occasion. Do what's right for society. Do what's right for the world. And never worry about upsetting anybody.
Bravo. I love that. Although I have to say, when I try to disrupt the all-male gays industry in Malta, I was told this is not how things are done. This is not how you should behave because this is a very different culture. Can we change the culture?
Absolutely. So, what is interesting about that, Beata, is, everybody, unfortunately, is driven by social conditioning to have this dreadful dynamic, which is fear of what other people will think. When people say that to you, they don't mean that they don't want to change the culture. They mean they are really terrified themselves of what other people will think of them. And I'm especially qualified to pronounce on this because, for the past 13 years of working on Make Love Not Porn, I have seen this fear of what other people will think operate around the one area of universal human experience it most operates in, which is sex. And I know perfectly well that beneath that veneer of social conditioning, everybody is dying to talk about sex. Everybody is a sexual being. Everybody is dying to be set free. And so exactly the same point applies in what you've just asked me, which is everybody is secretly dying to see the culture challenged, to see the culture change, to free everybody up. So absolutely disregard that. and absolutely carve your own path and take your own way.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cindy, for your great advice. That's a great start, and I welcome some of the community members. Michelle Jalanza says, we'll need to see the reply. Nora Di Nuzo says, can't wait for this. Bring your questions, ask Cindy. Tonight is your way into a new path with Cindy Gallop and hacking the future with her. Right, we started very strongly on the SexTech innovation and how you paved the way. Tell us about your new startup. Well, it's pretty old, isn't it?
Yeah, but unfortunately, it's not new, but it's still a startup because of all the enormous battles I've had to fight. So I have a business that started accidentally. And, I think it's worth saying that everything in my life and career has always happened by accident. I've never consciously, intentionally planned anything. So my business, Make Love Not Porn, came about because I date younger men. They tend to be men in their 20s. And about 14, 15 years ago, I began realizing through my direct personal experience dating younger men that when we don't talk openly and honestly about sex in the real world, porn becomes sex education by default in not a good way. I decided to do something about this. I put up as a little side venture a tiny clunky website at makelovenotporn.com that in its original version was just copy, porn world versus real world, launched at TED in 2009, and the entire world responded. And so I turned Make Love Not Porn into what it is today, the world's first and only user-generated, human-curated social sex video sharing platform. We're kind of what Facebook would be if it allowed you to socially, sexually self-express, which it clearly doesn't. The way to think about Make Love Not Porn is, if porn is the Hollywood blockbuster movie, Make Love Not Porn is the badly needed documentary. We are a unique window onto the funny, messy, loving, wonderful, hilarious, awkward sex we all have in the real world. We are socializing and normalizing sex, making it easier for everyone to talk about, to promote consent, communication, good sexual values, and good sexual behavior. We are literally sex education through real-world demonstration. And so we are pioneering the social sex revolution. The revolutionary part is not the sex, it's the fact we're making it social.
Beautiful. Now, good sexual values, why is it important? And I think you've been to India, which is struggling with good sexual values. I mean, the rape rate is quite big, in quite big numbers. What do you see needs to change in terms of regulation, in terms of education, to make it a better place for females?
It's very simple. India, like every other country in the world, needs to fund Make Love Not Porn so that we can scale across every single country in the world. And by the way, we are already global. Make Love Not Porn gets traffic and members from 220 countries and territories. But what we need is funding and champions. And what we are doing is utterly unique because ultimately, our mission at Make Love Not Porn is to end rape culture. We have 10 years of proof of concept. We help to end rape culture by doing something incredibly simple that nevertheless nobody else is doing anywhere. We end rape culture by showing you how wonderful, great consensual communicative sex is in the real world. Our social sex videos at Make Love Not Porn role model good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And here's the important part. We make all of that aspirational versus what you see in porn and popular culture. So we are reinventing aspirational culture around sex. And, in answer to your question, I designed Make Love Not Porn around all of my own beliefs and philosophies. One of which is that everything in life starts with you and your values. So I regularly ask people this question. What are your sexual values? And nobody can ever answer me because we're not taught to think like that. Our parents bring us up to have good manners, a work ethic, sense of responsibility, accountability. Nobody ever brings us up to behave well in bed. But they should. Because in bed, values like empathy, sensitivity, generosity, kindness, honesty, trust, respect are as important as those values are in every other area of life where we're actively taught to exercise them. And so at Make Love Not Porn, we are building community around shared sexual values. And even I, who had this idea and concepted the business, even I am blown away at how strong a community we've built around good sexual values and good sexual behavior.
Good sexual values, good sexual behavior was also part of our communication before with Kate Menting. A long time ago, they were speaking to us from New Zealand. Their new platform is launching in New Zealand. And they said that very often when they went to schools to talk about sexuality, they were met with giggles and shyness. Can we start very early, or is it forbidden? Should we start talking about how to behave in bed from early age?
Absolutely. So first of all, I am working right now to raise a round of funding for Make Love Not Porn. And I'm doing that because I've managed to keep Make Love Not Porn operational for 10 years on just $3 million of funding. That's an extraordinary feat. So the time has come to raise a serious round of funding. I'm working to raise $20 million to scale the core business, but also to build out what I'm calling the Make Love Not Porn universe, which is a social sex ecosystem of a number of product expansions that are designed to be very compelling standalone businesses, but also to turbocharge the growth of the core business as growth engines. And the first one of these product expansions I've had in the pipeline for many years. I've not been able to raise the funding for it until I believe the time is now. And that is in many ways a very obvious extension, because parents and teachers began writing to me from day one of Make Love Not Porn. So I want to build out the 0 to 18 safe for work sex education expansion of Make Love Not Porn, makelovenotporn.academy. If you go to the URL, you'll see a very old holding page there. I bought the URL many years ago. But this will be what I characterize as the Khan Academy of sex education. Because Khan Academy tutors on every other topic under the sun except this one. EdTech is exploding as a sector, but not in this area. So the way this works is I want to build out Make Love Not Porn Academy on the same principles as makelovenotporn.tv. User-generated, crowdsourced, curated revenue share. Because I'm not about reinventing the wheel. This is an aggregation hub for the world's sex education content. So the way it works is we will build out Make Love Not Porn Academy. And by the way, it's a very efficient build. We're simply repurposing our existing human curation content publishing infrastructure. And we will then invite sex educators from all around the world to submit to us their own content. Coursework, materials, videos, books, comic strips, whatever it may be. We will curate. At the heart of everything we do lies human curation. We only publish what is Make Love Not Porn endorsed. And we will then publish all of this content segmented by age appropriateness. So if you're a parent freaking out going, oh my God, my 6-year-old just asked about this, what do I say? Here's the section where you would go for entirely age-appropriate tools and content to be able to have that conversation with a 6-year-old. If you were a teacher with a class of 14-year-olds, here are your age-appropriate teaching materials. If you're an adult, access all areas. Adults are as desperate for this information as anybody else. But here's the really important thing. Make Love Not Porn Academy is designed to be accessed by children and young people without parental and teacher gatekeeping. And here's why that's important. So I have a friend who is a mother of a couple of kids, and this happened when her son was 8 years old. She monitors her children's browsing history, as you have to, and she saw that her son had searched on the family computer for sex for children. And so her son was 8 years old. Okay, she mildly freaked out, but she did the right thing, stayed calm, sat him down and went, darling, I see you've done this. Why is that? And this anecdote is adorable and horrifying in equal measure, because her son wanted to learn about sex. And he was a child, and he knew as a child, he wanted to learn about sex in a child-appropriate way. And so he Googled sex for children, and you can imagine the kind of thing that came back. He was utterly traumatized. And so that is why at Make Love Not Porn Academy, as a child, you can enter your age, and you will only be served age-appropriate sex education content. Now, a lot of this will be free to access, but we'll also charge to download, subscribe, bulk buy if you're a school. We're talking different revenue streams, different use cases. And by the way, we're talking a huge revenue generator. And we will then split the income 50-50 with its creators, the educators, the same way we do with our Make Love Not Porn stars at makelovenotporn.tv. Because right now, nobody goes into sex education to make money. I have friends who are brilliant sex educators all around the world. They face all the same barriers we do at Make Love Not Porn. Their content gets blocked on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They can't make a living doing this. They've had to take other jobs to survive. And I want to change that, because what they're doing is enormously valuable work globally.
Well, I hope our video is not going to be blocked because we talk too much about sex. Hopefully I won't have to blur the words here, but I would like to ask you, Cindy, you're a serial entrepreneur, you've hacked the future, you've managed so many businesses. There is also another venture, which is If You Run the World, and also All the Skies. Talk to us about these.
Sure. So If We Ran the World was my first startup, and it's based on the fact that I'm all about redesigning business models. I do a lot of consulting and public business speaking on this topic. And, I live my own philosophies. So I absolutely designed what I believe is the business model of the future, which is shared values plus shared action equals shared profit, financial profit and social profit. And what I mean by that is when brands and businesses come together with their audiences, and audiences can be consumers, employees, analysts, any stakeholders. When you come together with your audiences around values that you all share, which by the way is the most important requirement for a good relationship in life as much as business. You will never truly bond with someone if you don't share the same values. When you come together around shared values, and when you are then enabled collectively and collaboratively to co-act on those values, to walk the talk together, you can then make things happen in the real world that will benefit consumers, benefit society, and benefit the brand and its business. So If We Ran the World was co-action software designed to help brands and businesses integrate this business model. And when Make Love Not Porn blew up, I had to back burner If We Ran the World, because even I, superhuman as I am, cannot run two startups simultaneously. But I then designed Make Love Not Porn around precisely that business model, shared values plus shared action equals shared value. And B, as and when I can raise this funding for Make Love Not Porn and get it on a stable forward course financially, I want to go back and reactivate If We Ran the World. Because, back when we launched If We Ran the World, 12 years ago now, Harvard Business School reached out to me and said, this model is so innovative, we would like to teach it and write it up as a business case study. And, we were only 12 months old in beta at the time. And so I had this very surreal experience of going to Harvard, sitting at the back of a lecture theatre, listening to my startup being taught. And If We Ran the World exists as a Harvard Business School case study. And so business students write to me from all around the world still going, oh my God, I love this. Can I come and work for you? Because the world now gets the concept of a business model that's designed to do good and make money simultaneously, much more than they did even when I launched it 12 years ago. And then the other thing that I want to do as well, ultimately, is You know, I've really struggled to raise funding for Make Love Not Porn over the years. And so about 8 or 9 years ago now, you know, I'm a great believer that when you have a truly world-changing startup, you have to change the world to fit it, not the other way around. And so I deliberately began defining, pioneering, and championing my own category, SexTech. I literally wrote the definition of SexTech. You know, if you Google SexTech, I'm result 1 on page 1. I coined the hashtag SexTech. I didn't invent the term, but I'm directly responsible for propagating the hashtag as widely as it's used today. And I began speaking at tech conferences all around the world on why the next big thing in tech is disrupting sex. And I was doing this purely to legitimize my own category in order to create a climate of receptivity amongst investors to get Make Love Not Porn funded. But then 2 further accidental things happened. The first was that as I delineated and demarcated this category, I began seeing for myself the enormous potential within it, not least financially. And the second thing was that I gained a reputation as a global champion of sex tech. And sex tech founders began writing to me from all around the world. And they write because they face all the same barriers I do. You know, can't get funding, can't put payments in place. But literally every day, a sex tech founder writes to me from somewhere in the world. And I realized that I have extraordinary access to unique sex tech deal flow. And so that was the point at which I went, okay, in order to get my own startup funded, I'm just going to have to get the entire category funded. And so because I was having trouble raising $2 million to scale Make Love Not Porn, I decided, seemingly counterintuitively, to raise $200 million to start the world's first and only sex tech fund. Because if nobody else is going to do it, then I would. And I'm very frank about the fact that this was an act of desperation, a last resort. But as I began having dialogues with investors, I found that what I surmised was correct. There are many people interested in funding the category versus a single venture within it, for a couple of reasons. A, I do your due diligence for you. I am the OG domain expert. And B, when you fund a fund, it's at one remove from funding something actually to do with sex. Now, I had to back burner my sex tech fund, All the Sky Holdings as well, because I raised that $2 million from an unexpected source, which was my original angel investor. But, you know, as and when I raise the $20 million I'm seeking to raise to Make Love Not Porn now, I'm absolutely going back to reactivate my sex tech fund, because also investors keep writing to me saying, I'm interested in funding this. And so the potential only gets greater the more I break down all of these barriers for all of us who work in the sex tech field. And so I will absolutely be raising that sex tech fund one of these days once Make Love Not Porn is funded.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cindy. We are looking forward. We are keeping our fingers crossed for your very much in line with empathy economy startups. Now we have a couple of questions and comments coming. Nora Di Nuzo, if you are on your lunch break, tune in now or watch later. Cindy Gallop is a legend and always shares such valuable advice. Every woman on LinkedIn should follow her. Absolutely agree. Esmeralda, hi Beata, a very fabulous guest you have. I love the spirit and conviction, Cindy. And also the shirt looks nice. Make Love Not Porn t-shirt is available.
Yep, you can buy our merchandise on our website. Go to makelovenotporn.tv and click on merch. You too can have a Make Love Not Porn t-shirt like this.
Absolutely, you can do it as soon as we finish. Let's run through a couple of more questions. Hi, Cindy. Thank you so much for telling everyone. Marianne says, it's okay to be single and to die alone. Tired of people, neighbors telling me otherwise. I'm sorry, Marianne. You just have to deal with this shit, as Cindy would say. Now, is there a guide or Cindy bought Make Love Not Porn versions, especially to people without any experience? Marianne is asking.
Sure. So Marianne, absolutely. Basically, all of our videos on makelovenotporn.tv exemplify my philosophy of communication through demonstration. And so every one of our videos is sex education through real-world demonstration. And we have a number of members at Make Love Not Porn who've said to us, I'm not ready to have sex yet. I haven't had sex yet. But these videos are amazing at making me see the kind of sex life I want to have. And we just get very, very moving comments. One young man commented on one of our videos saying, they were 28, they've just started having sex. They are so nervous about, oh my God, expectations. What if something awkward happens? And this was a comment on a video where, this lovely couple of Make Love Not Porn stars, as we call our contributors, I think that this is a video where, in fact, it was a straight couple, and the man, suddenly came a great deal more quickly than he was expecting to. But because it's Make Love Not Porn, that's where you get to see them. And this young gentleman left this comment saying, I love this video. He said, for so many more reasons than just the sex, for the communication, for the reassurance, accidents happen. And so, we are absolutely educational for anybody and everybody, including people without any experience. And you should know also that, a lot of parents are buying their 18 and over children subscriptions to Make Love Not Porn because, as they tell us, I want my kids to see what happy, healthy, loving sex relationships look like.
Porn exists in a kind of parallel universe, a shadowy underground. When you force something, anything, into the shadows and underground, you make it easier for bad things to happen, and you make it a lot harder for good things to happen. Cindy, that's quotation from your interview. Nora D. Nizel says, ejaculate responsibly is getting a ton of positive press now. Maybe the world is finally ready for a public discourse on sex ed and more quality, honest content. Now,
if I can just respond to that, Beata. No, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Gabrielle Blair, who wrote Ejaculate Responsibly. We follow each other on Twitter. And Ejaculate Responsibly is a wonderful book that I highly recommend. But Nora, I completely agree with your point, because I've spent 13 years parallel pathing two things: working to build Make Love Not Porn and working to change the cultural context around it. And, as I said earlier, in the spirit of when you have a truly world-changing startup, you have to change the world to fit it, not the other way around. I've spent 13 years taking Make Love Not Porn to an unprecedented level of social and business acceptance. And I'm now seeing, 13 years on, all of that hard work paying off, because we are absolutely at a tipping point in terms of people wanting more openness around all of this, especially, by the way, Gen Z, who are a very different generation altogether. And so I really feel we're at a zeitgeist moment. And by the way, that is indicated by the experience I'm having right now finding investors for Make Love Not Porn. Because here's my challenge. I'm looking for investors. I know that my investors are out there. There are a ton of them. And by the way, there are a ton of them in every single country in the world. My challenge is they're impossible to find by the usual means, because they all have one thing in common. Your willingness to fund Make Love Not Porn is entirely a function of your personal sexual journey. It's a function of your personal lens on sex and sexuality, which has been shaped by your own experience. And I have no way to research and target for that. Not least because sex is the one area where you cannot tell from the outside what anybody thinks on the inside. The people who look like they would totally get it don't. The people who look like complete prudes do. And so my strategy for finding investors has been, I put what I'm doing out there all the time. I promote Make Love Not Porn across all my social channels. I do every media interview I'm asked to. I go on every podcast, because I have to rely on making synaptic connections happen that will attract those investors to me. Now, this is a very long, slow, painful process, highly inefficient. But the good news is every so often it works. And the even better news is in the past year, it's been working more and more. I have to tell you, I am gobsmacked at how effective LinkedIn is at bringing me incoming investor interest. I mean, I unashamedly post on LinkedIn about the fact I'm looking for funding, and investors write to me out of the blue and say, Cindy, I saw you're raising funding. I'd like to talk. Tell me more. I'm intrigued. And that is very different from when I began trying to raise funding, seed funding for Make Love Not Porn 13 years ago. So I really think we are in a whole new era. You know, that's why I'm very optimistic about raising the funding I'm going for. And, you know, this is a tipping point for Make Love Not Porn, as well as all the rest of people, you know, trying to bring sex out into the open and the sunlight and normalize it and socialize it as we are.
Well, let me point to some of our listeners, the fact that it seems to be so obvious, so easy. You've got the community, you've got cash flow, you've got, you know, marketing strategy nailed down, you've got the roadmap, and
steady on, steady on, steady on. No, it's not that easy. And I wouldn't say we've got cash flow. Basically, I've fought a battle every single day for the past 13 years to keep this business alive. Just to keep it alive, let alone grow it. That's because every single piece of business infrastructure any other tech startup gets to take for granted, we can't. The small print always says no adult content. And this is all pervasive across every single area of the business in a way that people outside the sphere do not realize. It's not just that historically I couldn't get funded, I couldn't get banked. It took me 4 years to find one bank here in America that would allow me to open a business bank account for Make Love Not Porn. Try doing business for 4 years without a business bank account. Not going to tell you how I did it in ways I shouldn't have, but it makes your life extraordinarily difficult. My biggest operational challenge is payments. PayPal won't work with adult content. Stripe can't. Mainstream credit card processors won't. We have to work with adult-friendly payment processors who, because anybody adult has nowhere else to go, charge extortionate rates. I pay out 12% of my revenue every month in payment processing fees alone. That's a massive business growth inhibitor. Every single tech service I need to use to operate a video platform, hosting, encoding, encrypting, the terms of service always say no adult content. In every single case, I have had to go to the people at the top of the company, explain what I'm doing, beg to be allowed to use their service. Sometimes they let me, sometimes I don't. It's a very labor-intensive process. I never get to work with best in class of anything business partner-wise. We had to build our entire video sharing platform from scratch ourselves as proprietary technology because existing streaming services will not stream adult content. I'm so jealous of friends who built video startups on top of Vimeo. Quick, easy, simple, cheap. I can't do that. Even something as simple as sending our membership emails out. You know, MailChimp won't work with adult content. You know, we were rejected by a ton of them. Only SendGrid would work with us. You know, this is how ridiculous it is. A few years ago, I needed a contract user experience designer. I put a perfectly standard UX designer job description up on Upwork. 20 minutes later, Upwork took it down. They told us we're not allowed to advertise jobs on Upwork because we are Make Love Not Porn. And the biggest business growth inhibitor of all is that we are banned from advertising anywhere. We are banned from advertising on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit, I ask you, Google, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, and in traditional media. Now, one of the reasons I'm raising funding is because those advertising barriers fall when I write a big enough check. When I have serious money, I can advertise. But those are the obstacles I've battled every single day for the past 13 years. And so, as I say, it's a goddamn miracle Make Love Not Porn is still here, still operating. And that is why investors should fund me and Make Love Not Porn. Because I and we have the persistence, the resilience, the determination, the grit, and the proven traction that investors should be putting $20 million behind right now.
Absolutely. Fund Cindy should be a hashtag trending, just like SexTech that Cindy developed. Now, do you think your life is going to be easier once you're going to set up VC fund? Because it's still going to be around sex.
Oh, no. The huge opportunity, and this is why I really want to get Make Love Not Porn funded as quickly as possible so I can then turn to raising my SexTech fund. Because I have a vision for SexTech unlike anybody else. And I am the only person with 13 years of domain expertise who can make this vision happen. Because oh my God, the money that I am going to be able to make for the investors who back me. And that's money I'm going to be able to make in two areas. The second one of which right now nobody even thinks about because nobody even thinks it's possible. So the first area is obviously, oh my God, the money to be made out of sex generally. We all have it. We all enjoy it. And very importantly, in today's economic downturn, sex, what I'm doing at Make Love Not Porn, and sex generally, we are recession proof and the market never ever goes away. But the second area is, oh my God, the money to be made out of socially acceptable sex. Because I want to do for SexTech what I'm already doing at Make Love Not Porn, where it's not just what we do, it's the way that we do it. When you do what we're doing at Make Love Not Porn, socialize and normalize all of this, you then socialize and normalize people feeling really okay about publicly buying your goods, products, and services, publicly then doing what we do with everything else, reviewing, recommending, sharing, advocating, and publicly badging themselves as brand ambassadors. That's the trillion-dollar financial future I'm going after, socially acceptable sex.
Socially acceptable sex, and also you are talking about building a community. Now, we've seen some hate speech involving communities. It wasn't really social platforms. I mean, they were antisocial. How is your platform approaching hate speech?
So this is where the rest of the internet should be learning from me and Make Love Not Porn. And I want to contextualize our approach within the framework of the tech landscape as a whole. The young white male founders of the giant tech platforms that dominate our lives today, they are not the primary targets, online or offline, of harassment, abuse, racism, sexual assault, violence, rape, revenge porn. Therefore, they did not, and they do not, proactively design for the prevention of any of those things on their platforms. And we see the results around us every single day. Those of us who are most at risk every single day, women, people of color, Black people, LGBTQ, the disabled, we design safe spaces and safe experiences. I and my tiny team spent literally years concepting and designing Make Love Not Porn before we ever built it, because we knew that if we were going to invite people to do something they've never done before, socially share their real world sex, we had to think through every possible ramification of that to create a completely safe and trustworthy space. As a result, not only does Make Love Not Porn operate unlike anybody else in the adult sphere, we operate unlike anybody else on the internet, period. And that's because I designed Make Love Not Porn through the female lens to be the safest place on the internet, because I designed it around what everybody else should have, nobody else did, human curation. There is no self-publishing of anything on Make Love Not Porn. Our curators watch every frame of every video submitted from beginning to end before we approve or reject and we publish it. No one else does that. Our curators review every post on every member profile, photos, text, illustration. And by the way, on Make Love Not Porn, your profile posts can be as safe work or not safe work as you like, but we review them, we approve or reject, we publish them. Nobody else does that. We review every single comment on every single video before we approve or reject and we publish it. Nobody else does that. We can vouch for every single piece of content on our platform, and that is why we are the safest place on the internet. But for us, human curation starts even further back before you even get to our platform. We make it crystal clear what Make Love Not Porn is all about. We are pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. We make it clear what kind of content we want, social sex, not just in our FAQs, but in every media interview on all our social channels. Guess what? When you make it clear what kind of content you want, good sexual values, good sexual behavior, that is the only kind of content you get. We have no hate speech on Make Love Not Porn, because when you design through the female lens, you design the ability to hate speak out. And that is why it is criminal, and I use the term literally, it's criminal that I have struggled for funding. It's criminal that female founders struggle for funding. Only 2% of all venture capital last year went to female founders. 98% went to predominantly white men, because we design a different internet and we design a different future for humanity. And investors who want to do a huge amount of good and make a huge amount of money, you need to put your money into us. You're muted, Beata.
Sorry about that. How can we support Cindy apart from buying t-shirts?
Well, obviously, if you like what I'm saying, I would love everyone listening, please go to makelovenotporn.tv. It's free to sign up. And then it's only, subscriptions start at $10 a month. So please subscribe. Please do consider becoming a Make Love Not Porn star. You can be anonymous, wear masks, faces in shadow. And by the way, another thing we do that no one else does is the moment you want your videos down, they're down immediately. No process, no application form. You tell us, email us, message us, we take them down instantly. But equally, anybody out there who is an investor or knows an investor who would get it, hook a sister up, Cindy at makelovenotporn.com. Equally, we're looking for paying brand partners who get that we are the opportunity to demonstrate products the way they never get to be demonstrated. So equally, we're looking for brand partnerships. And, please just tell everybody about us and send people to Make Love Not Porn.
That's exactly what we are doing tonight. We are talking about Make Love Not Porn, Cindy Gallop, and her many ventures, and how she redesigned the system to fit her needs and community needs. We have In Love and in Pain. I hope she's enjoying tonight. As always, another interesting topic. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, Cindy. You really got a nice shirt. In Love and in Pain, you can buy it, as Cindy is encouraging us. And we have Patrick Young, who's personally my biggest supporter. And I'm not going to share what we are going to do next. Probably some present is going to happen for this Christmas. Phenomenal, inspiring, and magnificent. We're all pro Cindy Gallop now. Thank you, Beata, for such an inspiring guest once again. We are not over yet. It is not over yet. Cindy, I wanted to ask you, you said there is no questions of limit, and you talk about, you're all about action, not talking, but also walking the talk. Is your videos available on your platform?
So we get asked this all the time. So before we launched Make Love Not Porn, we sat down as a team and we had the conversation about, as entrepreneurs, we should be using our own platform. Now, there were different views within the team. Some people were keener than others. But what we did all agree was every one of us on my tiny team fights the same battle every day, dealing with business partners in our different disciplines and capacities. Unfortunately, it wouldn't help us to create any more barriers than we already have. And so that is why, neither myself nor my team members are on Make Love Not Porn ourselves. I very much hope that one day, we can break down these hypocritical business barriers in order to change that. But right now, it's a business decision.
Thank you for your honesty, Cindy. I was hoping you're going to be there because I'm sure you would have more subscribers. But anyway.
I have to tell you, a lot of our male members write all the time asking this.
There you go. You're the one who said, come on my face on TEDx floor. So I'm sure it was inspiring. Now, we talked also about sexual harassment. You've been in social media, in a marketing word, which was very much a macho word, and you've experienced some sexual harassment. What would be your number one advice to those who experience it for the first time?
Well, first of all, it is enormously important, especially today, that anybody who experiences sexual harassment speaks up about it. you may think that, you know, your job is at risk if you do. I'm here to tell you your job is at risk if you don't. So absolutely speak up, because today, you know, the climate is better than it ever was before for enabling you to do that. But honestly, the more important message is to business leaders everywhere, because sexual harassment magically disappears completely in any working environment where you either have staff that are 50-50 male-female, or ideally more female than male. The moment you have a fully gender equal working environment, no more sexual harassment, for two reasons. The first is that, you know, in a work environment that is 50-50 male-female, or again, ideally, let's say more female than male, there is then not the implicit bro endorsement around the men, it's okay to behave like that. And secondly, in a gender equal or more female than male work environment, where men every single day are therefore interacting with and working with women as professional equals, exposed to women's brilliance, talent, skills, insights, working equally with them as part of the team, men cease to see women in one of only two roles, girlfriend or secretary. So it's very simple. Corporate leaders everywhere, get your company at every single level to 50-50 male, female, or more female than male, no more sexual harassment.
Absolutely. Now we are based in Malta. I mean, I've met many women who talked to me about what they heard and they never spoke up. I mean, you're the predecessor of Speak Up. You have to challenge the status quo, and men far outnumber women in politics. The number of female candidates largely pleased since the early 2000s, with a blanket ban on abortion. I'm sorry about that. I'm really upset about that. And no exceptions made for incest, rape, or when the mother's life is at risk. And until 2011 in Malta was one of the only three countries in the world who did not allow divorces. So now, how do we change that? Do we speak up? Do we go to regulators? Because as Helena Dali, who's a politician here in Malta, said, it's so easy to change the regulation, but it's so difficult to change the mindset.
So, you know, what I would say to that, Beata, is what I say to women everywhere, which is start your own industry. And what I mean by that is I encourage every woman to start your own business. But I deliberately articulate like that because when you start your own business, you can design it to work exactly the way you want it to. And when you do that, you are starting the industry we all want to live and work in. And the reason why that is my response to you is because, again, I'm all about communication through demonstration. First of all, when women start businesses and grow them successfully, they can then hire other women, and other women then get the kind of working environment devoid of sexual harassment that we all want to be able to work in. When women start businesses that hire other women and succeed and make money, you demonstrate to the men that there is a completely different way of working and that you need to take women seriously in that context. I regularly say we don't get taken seriously until we get taken seriously financially, but also because at the end of the day, and again, I've been saying this for decades, I want every single woman to unashamedly set out to make an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money. And I articulate that deliberately because that is how much money I want all of us to make. And I want you to do that not just for you, but because when all of us make an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money, we can then use that money to fund other women, to support other women, help other women, donate to other women. We need to build our own financial ecosystem because the white male one is not working for us. And in that context, money is power. When we make money, we can hire lobbyists. We can effect regulation change. we can do all sorts of things to change exactly what you're talking about. When we get taken seriously financially, the men have to listen, and we have the money and the power to make shit happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I have seen so many females so happy to be included in the panel. And I remember you saying that you support yourself financially, you bootstrap at your ideas, and you always ask for reimbursement in order to do that. I've seen so many females just eager to be on that panel and not asking for reimbursement. What would be your number one advice? How to change that mentality?
Sure. So it's very straightforward. And just to explain to our listeners, what Beata is referencing is the fact that, I have to support myself alongside Make Love Not Porn until I raise the kind of funding where I can pay myself the kind of salary. I don't have to do that anymore. And so I support myself through paid coaching. And by the way, I do personal coaching, if anybody's interested, paid business consulting, and paid public speaking. And there are two very important points about that latter, which is what Beata's asking about. First of all, people value you at the value you are seen to put on yourself. Never give anything away for free, because nobody appreciates anything they get for free. And secondly, the only way to get to speak paid is to refuse to speak unpaid. And so I simply do not speak at events that will not pay me, because I am enormously worth being paid to speak, as I'm hoping everyone listening to me now gets a good sense of. And so it's very simple. When you are asked to speak, as a keynote speaker on a panel, you simply go, great, I'd love to, this is my speaking fee. That's it.
As easy as that. I remember another story, Cindy. You were saying that you wanted to get the vision from the management, and you ask, where is this company taking me? Right? Tell us about that story just at the end.
Sure. So basically, this is how I came to be in New York, because many years ago, I was working for a Bartle Bogle Hegarty BBH in London. I was a young, thrustingly ambitious account director. And so I did what young, thrustingly ambitious account directors do, which is I pinned my boss, Nigel Bogle, up against the wall. I went, where am I going in this agency? And Nigel did the, very good management tactic of turning the question back on me. He went, Cindy, you tell us what you want to do and we'll make it happen. And he said, don't be bounded by the realms of the possible. If you want a job at BBH that doesn't exist yet, tell us what it is. So I thought, gosh, that's a good offer. Went away, thought about it, came back and said, okay, my dream job would be running BBH North America in New York. And by the way, this is at a time when we only had one office in London. And so Nigel said, okay, well, interestingly, we've begun talking about New York, about the US. So your request is locked. Now, we actually opened an office in Asia Pacific first, because that's where we had clients asking for a presence. So I went out to help start up and run BBH Asia Pacific as the number 2. But then 2 years later, I got my opportunity to come to New York here in 1998 to start up BBH New York. And so, absolutely in your career, feel free to ask the management where they see your future, and even better, have an idea of what you want that future to be and ask for it.
Absolutely. Now, Cindy, we are reaching the full hour. Can you please give us your favorite life lesson quote, and how did it change you?
Honestly, whenever people ask me my favorite piece of business advice, I can't remember who this was. It was the person who said to me, get more sleep. I'm a huge fan of sleep. It's a little known business advantage, because when you are very well rested and you get all the sleep you want, you are in fighting form. So, get more sleep.
Get more sleep, and I'm not even sure who's the source of the quotation because we've got so many quotations. We could run the whole show around Cindy Gallop's quotations. The single largest pool of untapped resource in this world is human good intentions that never translate into actions. We have a couple of comments. Nora says, Cindy, you were a major inspiration to me when leaving the ad agency world to start my own growth consultancy pitcher for small businesses last year. I just celebrated my first anniversary in October. Thank you for lighting a fire in me, and I'm sure so many other women entrepreneurs. Absolutely, Cindy, you are a trailblazer. And Patrick says, here, Cindy, don't speak for free. I entirely agree. And yes, you are worth it, to coin an ad phrase. Now, Cindy, we always ask this question. Imagine the pandemic is over. It's nearly over. You could invite any person in the world to have private breakfast anywhere in the world. Who would you invite and where would you go to?
Well, honestly, the answer is just very straightforward. And to be frank, I've been doing this since lockdown ended. But I would just spend time with my mother anywhere. I mean, I go back to London every 4 to 6 weeks to see my mother, who's 89 years old, about to turn 90, lives in London, and so I would do what I am doing anyway. I would just spend time with my mother.
Well, it's amazing that your mother is a mother of 4 daughters. Are all your sisters like you?
We're all very different, and we all do very different things.
Absolutely great, Cindy. Thank you so much. She's actually from Malaysia, as I remember.
Yep.
Is that a mixture of different cultures that made Cindy the person she is today, or who made Cindy?
Yep. I mean, my father was English. He's no longer with us. My mother's Malaysian Chinese. I was born in the UK, but I grew up in Brunei and Borneo. And so I consider myself very much a global citizen.
Out of discomfort comes greatness, as Cindy likes to say. And that's it from episode 81 of PhD Livestream. Thanks to our guest, Cindy Gallop. To stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Woman on It and turn on notifications to be alerted once a video is released. Thank you so much for our great commentators. We've got Dr. Michelle Jalanza, Nora Di Nuso, Ayo Esmeralda, Marianne Madera, In Love and in Pain, and my husband, Patrick Young. Thank you for listening. Next week, we are going to talk about women in manufacturing, trailblazing in the manufacturing world. Thank you, Cindy. That's great. We are always reminding you, think. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude, as Maya Angelou says. Today is your day to hug the future, hug the positivity you want. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Beata. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye.